You're tuned to Off the Ball, the most petty and ill-informed sports programme on radio. The Week in Scottish Football. Have I got news for you? What does Hamilton mean to you? And great uncles. I'm Ray Bradshaw, he's Tam Cowan, and you're tuned to the odd couple of Scottish football. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Off the Ball with me, Ray Bradshaw, and Tam Cowan. Tam, where do we start? A week in Scottish football? It's been an absolute belter, isn't it?
Well, because it's Christmas period, we need to start with the wee tear-jerking bit of the young Hearts fan being plucked from the away end in Copenhagen.
I hadn't seen this until you showed me.
And been allowed to go out hand in hand with Lawrence Shankland as the mascot. Good on Copenhagen.
Do you think the little kid was shouting stuff about Shankland last weekend, though?
He might have been, yeah. I want him rid, want him sacked and all the rest of it. But no, it was a nice wee story. And good on the home team for doing that. But fickle. It's a word that we've brought up in this show for years.
Every week.
The F word, fickle fans. Tell me, is there a more fickle fan in the current era, the current climate, than the Rangers fan? Come on, where are the Rangers fans who are still demanding, indeed, Philippe Clement to get jotted, to get kicked out the club and take Tavernier with you?
Well,
it's incredible the change.
We'll be speaking to one in an hour's time, and Kenny McIntyre joins us for 10 minutes so we can find out then.
We've got John Mackay as well, the legendary frontman, anchorman of STV News.
I would say a Scottish icon. I think he's that level. He's absolutely iconic, I think, John Mackay.
Yeah, he reads out loud for a living. So let's not get too carried away, okay? But yeah, John Mackay is going to be joining us momentarily, and he's a Rangers fan himself. But what I mean, I watched that the other night. Bear in mind, you can only applaud Rangers with that the other night. It was a great game to watch for a start. I don't know if you watched the full thing.
I watched it backstage, so I had the sound down, but I watched most of the game, yeah.
Very, very open game, end-to-end stuff, and, Rangers only just denied what would have been a famous victory. Was it only, 2 years ago when one of Spurs' peers, if you like, came
Liverpool
up here and took 7 off Rangers?
Yeah, because I was driving through to Edinburgh and it was Stephen Thompson was talking about it, and he was like, this is a worse Rangers side than that.
Aye.
And
was it 3 weeks ago tomorrow since that murderous performance for Rangers against Dundee United?
Yeah, because international breaks throw it up, so I think it was 3 or 4 weeks.
It's absolutely incredible. And the biggest thing about it, I was speaking to a former professional footballer who enjoys a bet on the football, and this person was pointing out to me vehemently recently the fact that Celtic were 1-2, 2-1 on to win
for tomorrow,
just to lift the trophy tomorrow. So you don't even then need to worry about extra time, penalties, all that stuff. Saying, look, just for Celtic to get their hands on that trophy, 2-1 on, stick $2,000 on it, £200, £20, and you're getting half of it back as winnings, clear winnings, but a Christmas pocket money. The same person who is in a blind panic because
did they stick it on?
But yeah, so it just shows you how a couple of results make you change your mind. The odds have actually changed, I'm guessing, since midweek on the game. But it's bonkers.
It's amazing the difference a striker makes, because Eagleman has made such a big difference, because we all know, even in the Rangers Celtic game earlier this season, you've seen it in Europe, Dessers coming in will create chances but miss them. Whereas Eagleman just looks, 4 and 5 last games, and then the Dessers chance where he runs through. But then during the week, I said to you about the Celtic game, it felt like a lifetime ago, didn't it?
Absolutely.
5 days ago, Celtic getting a decent-ish draw.
Right, so come on, own up, because all the Rangers fans now, you only need to go online, that's about, maybe Clement is building something.
He's building a style, yes.
Exactly. So come on, the bottom line was you were wanting the guy absolutely booted out your club, just any time before, what night was the game? Thursday night. Any time before that, for 2 weeks before, 3 weeks, 4 weeks before, you were wanting him out. Tell us if you genuinely change your tune, or will it only take a defeat tomorrow and you're back to square one.
The fickleness, because we talked about Shankland
fickleness,
getting
a great word.
Thistle last night, we lost 2-0. It was our first loss in 8 or 9 league games, and straight away people were like, Doolan needs to go, Doolan style. And you look at it, we were actually the form team in the league up until yesterday, and our record, I'm not using this as an excuse, our record on plastic pitches is atrocious. And I was thinking, Tam, have you got a ground like this where I don't think I've ever been to a game and seen us win in Livingston? I think I've seen us lose a cup final there. I've seen us lose a relegation playoff there. Numerous league games, draws and losses. I can't think of us ever winning a game when I've been there.
I've never seen us winning a game at the San Siro.
you're not alive in the 60s. What was it? It was the Spanish Cup you won or something.
The old Spanish one back 1930. About 29, 32. But no, I've never really thought about a jinx.
Livy's always been one for me. Always.
As I say, my thing as a Motherwell fan, it keeps coming up, is the fact that it just tends to be a team that's desperate for something in some shape or form. And another one that a guy reminded me when I brought this up recently was when Ebbe Skovdal was at Aberdeen around about 99, 2000, and Aberdeen hadn't had a win deep into October. Not a win in the league. Deep into October, they'd only scored 2 goals in the league up to that point. They came to Fir Park and they beat us 6-5.
Oh, I remember that game.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And a great start with that is it was Andy Gorham and Jim Leighton that were in goals.
Great.
And pound for pound, in terms of the keepers with the most caps losing the greatest number of goals in a single game, I think that's a world record, you know. But astonishing.
I remember chatting to David Peace and a couple of other Aberdeen players at that time under Skovdal, and they said his team talks were absolutely mental, to the point where he'd say so many good quotes that the minute he left the room, they would get the physio table and turn it up and write the quotes on it, so they could remember all the mad stuff he'd said throughout the year. And he said usually they'd done it with previous managers. This time it was full within a month. Just everything Skovdal said. Just like a proper kind of character you don't really get in the game anymore.
No, I mean, his great one was meant to be Ebbe was fond of a drink, and I think particularly after coming to Scotland he really enjoyed a whiskey. And there was a story, I think, indeed I think it was Jockey Scott told us it in the show many years ago. Last time Jockey would have been on, the great Jockey Scott, and he said that he recalls after a Dundee Aberdeen game, Ebbe Skovdal coming into his room after it, as managers do. You know, they might have been going ding dong during the game, but we always have a wee.
We were hearing from Stephen A. Smith
afterwards.
That happens less and less nowadays as well, doesn't it?
Sadly, they'll all be too many into their lattes and all that, and their skinny mochas and everything. But they came in after the game, irrespective of what the result was, and Ebbe Skovdal, Jockey, says, come on in for a drink. Went into Jockey's wee room, Jockey, the wee mini bar there, and he opened it. He says, and there was tins of beer. Do you want a can of beer, Ebbe? You don't have whiskey? No, we're not getting any whiskey. Goodbye. And he just went out. That was that. So he was only interested in getting a lovely.
Admire that, don't you?
There we go. But
see if you take it away from club football this week, international football, big news. So,
wait, before we take it away from the club football, but it get completely overshadowed.
No, Thistle lost last night. Let's get away from the club football.
Celtic, the domestic clubs as such. Celtic, of course, again, it was a great result, but they're saying what could have been in terms of possession. Chances, looking at the group and all that, but they're still very much in the hunt. Hearts as well, very much in the hunt, even though they didn't get a look in. The mascot story was about the only positive. And did you see the fans in the pubs?
Yes, it looked great fun.
Brilliant. I mean, that's what fun. When we went through our travels with Motherwell, when we went through that period under Stuart McCall and Craig Brown, we were, I think, 6 years out of 7. We were getting European trips. The results were secondary. That's the bottom line, you know?
Especially if Hearts can get through here. So the problem is they've not scored in 5 halves of European football. I kept on hearing in the commentary the other night. So they need to win this week. A draw could be potential, but we're still at a stage now where in mid-December 3 Scottish clubs could be in Europe. Well, usually we say after Christmas, but 2 of them are guaranteed. The way the format
I would have liked to be the format. I'd have still liked all the ties for this part of competition run before Christmas. That's neat and tidy, and then move into the next stage. But so there's a wee bit of hangover there, but that's fine. But so Celtic Hearts. Let's hear for the Celtic and Hearts fans still going strong. You're the Rangers fans. What a transformation it would appear. But I think the Rangers fans. I can only go on my one kind of oracle and all things Rangers pal of mine that I grew up with. I'd love to think he'd have supported Motherwell, but he doesn't. And but he's sensible. So I tend to put these points to him. I've done it for years now, and as he says, we're only one bad result away, but he says, I wish we could play in Europe every week. You know, it's night and day.
Seems like the pressure's off, doesn't it?
It's something weird.
I suppose you don't have teams sitting back, which I'd imagine a lot of Rangers fans will say teams come to Ibrox and do, but it's about breaking them down as well, isn't it? And Celtic don't seem to have a problem doing
Anyhow,
that.
Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, give us all your thoughts. If anybody could name, well, our apologies, we don't have the name of the wee guy that get the chance to be the mascot and going out hand in hand with Lawrence Sharp. So anybody get the wee guy's name, we'll give him a mention.
8-year-old kid, so if
show.
we get him a mention, his parents can also get arrested for taking him out of school, so that'll be good as well.
Exactly, there we go. We were saying about the chat, I mean, the thing with Chris Doolan, from an outsider looking in, shall I say, Ray, I think when I had a wee look online last night, any disgruntled Partick Thistle fans, of which there were quite a few, I get the feeling the thought was that Livingston had been going really well, Falkirk, and a lot of folks stick on.
Run away.
So maybe a result like that last night, you think, oh, cats, that's Falkirk and Livy.
Yeah, winning last night would have catapulted us back into even the race for second. But if we finish third or fourth, we'd need to beat Livy over 2 legs again. And right now, that doesn't look like
and
happening.
that's why big test today for Scott Brown at Ayr United against Falkirk. Huge game. Interesting to see what the crowd's going to be there.
Because that and your game, Motherwell Dundee United, I think they're the two picks today.
Yeah.
Probably the two biggest games.
Yep, absolutely. Motherwell Dundee United, looking forward to that today, and we're still hanging on in there. What a difference that late goal at St Mirren meant last
The criticism Doolan's getting a lot is we've got a big squad, we've invested heavily, and we're not getting the results compared to a Livy, compared to a Falkirk. So Falkirk, the main story today is I can't remember the young right back they've brought in from Cumbernauld Colts, who they've now signed on a long-term deal because he's been flying and teams down south are sniffing about him, whereas it looks like we've invested heavily and we're not getting that result.
Talking to young guys, well, I'll tell you what, we better do the World Cup draw first. So, as I read somebody saying last night, the World Cup beheading for Saudi Arabia.
Nice.
A lovely play on words there. So, 2034, so it's going to be the winter again. It's like Qatar again, yeah.
Teams have said they don't want it to be, but it looks like it will be. There's all kind of deals happening for that. So, have you seen the...
And a lot of deals that we won't be privy to, of course, that will happen.
Yeah, there's lots of TV rights deals that seem to be the right amount of money of shortfalls and things like that. And then 2030, the World Cup being held in Portugal, Spain, Morocco and Uruguay.
Yeah.
The 100th anniversary. That's shambolic. 3 games over there. No, in our luck, we will get Montevideo away, and we'll get that if we qualify.
Good one to go to.
It'd be fun, but they are then trying to arrange a flight from there to Casablanca for the next game. Is not going to be ideal, is it?
Right, well, there we go.
And then our group for the 2026 World Cup. What do you make of it, Tom?
Well, again, you know, it seems that Cristiano Ronaldo's going to go on forever. I know he did a bit of the childish outburst the last time we saw him, but it'd be great to think he was still playing. So I would be edging towards Portugal there.
This is where we totally disagree.
I know.
You want to see players, I want to win games.
Right, I know, but how do you know what Denmark are going to be like?
We've beat Denmark more recently than we beat Portugal.
I know, but looking ahead, you can't look past. What if Denmark, you know, Belgium for years were shrug of the shoulders, and then they became, number 2 ranked in the world, you know?
They didn't win anything though, did they?
I know, but you don't know what Denmark's going to end up like. If you're saying about you'd sooner go with the result, surely you'd then prefer to see an ailing Belarus.
Greece are the new Israel. Remember we played Israel like
Belarus is still a country by the time we play them.
That's what I feel for Scotland fans. You've got a decent away trip to either Portugal, where you were last year, or Denmark. You've got 2 trips to, it looks like, Athens this year, and then Belarus is behind closed doors. So very limited. We'll have 2 friendlies in June. I've heard rumours about some exciting friendlies and also some dreadful friendlies. So we'll just see what we get.
Lionel Messi wearing that kind of negligee thing, that kind of women's kind of goonie. Remember that thing that he was wearing when he was on the park? Kind of see-through wee
yes, yeah.
Right, well, that's about my only memory of the entire Qatar World. It was a non-event. It was guff. It was a wrong time to have a World Cup. You couldn't get tuned into it. There was other things going on in life rather than a big lazy summer.
Christmas nights out and stuff like that happening when World Cup's on. Yeah, I know what you mean. I do know what you mean.
So anyhow, we'll see how that pans out. But it's not getting the juices flowing at all, unlike the good old domestic football. So the week in football, that's tickled your fancy. Give us your thoughts on that. Love to the Rangers fans. Come on, let's hear for the Rangers fans. Celtic fans, ahead of that tomorrow, we're also going to be joined. We've kind of teed it up, Rangers v Celtic in the studio today, because we've got John Mackay, Rangers fan, and Susie McCabe, die-hard Celtic fan. We'll get their thoughts on the final. We'll be back on air tomorrow. We can keep our powder dry even if we want until tomorrow ahead of the final at 3:30.
Yeah.
Why that added half? It'd been great. I know traditional is Saturday at 3 o'clock. Those days are never going to come back. It'd have been quite nice if it could have been 3 p.m. on the Sunday. What's up with that other half hour? What's on?
I think
the same
it's
channel.
Premier Sports. I wonder if it's rugby. I wonder if the Scottish final is getting pushed back half an hour because of rugby.
Right.
I think
and then to clarify that would be great. Loads of other stuff. John Mackay, who'll be joining us. We're going to help him promote his book Scotland Today and Yesterday, and it's an updated version of a book.
Yeah,
John.
as he said,
it might have been the last time we had him on the show. In fact,
he said about a decade. He said a lot's happened in Scotland in the last 10 years, and he's not half wrong, is he?
Just a bit. So, John, the legendary anchorman on STV, he loves flagging up what particular tie he'll be wearing of an evening. That tends to be his shtick on social media. There's been many a moment that he's been involved with live broadcasts, things that have gone wrong. Just for asking the listeners, a great news item moment.
Yeah.
I think we've been tuned into the news. It may have been, for example, Kerradine, our dear friend Kerradine from in here. When Michael Beale was announced as manager and Kerradine was doing a live report back to the studio from outside Ibrox, and the Rangers fan ran towards him with his jumper over his head, chanting Michael Beale, Michael Beale, Michael Beale, and the gag quickly became it was Kenny McIntyre, of course, yeah. But there was a moment like that, live stuff. Hello to Cat Shearer. We've known Cat in the show for a while, formerly of this parish. I remember the one, it was some wee quaint story she was doing about a 92-year-old woman who had won the National Link-Up bingo game and got £13,000. They went to the report and it was Rudolf Hess giving it loudly at a Nazi rally. Circa 1941.
I've not seen this.
It was great, and it came back to Kat, and she had to say, "Well, of course, that wasn't Jesse McGlumphy."
How did they keep a straight face? That my favourite one.
Know.
Do you remember the one? Was Simon McCoy? Do you remember his one?
Oh, he's a wee. He's almost like a mannequin. Yeah. He's a tailor's dummy.
He was meant to be holding an iPad reading stuff, but he couldn't find it, so he just got like a notepad of paper,
right,
and just held blank paper, pretending he was reading off an iPad as he did it. So good, so good. There must be, because
you've got the boy been in for the interview live on the news bulletin. It was meant to be for Apple, the Apple Corporation.
And he was a taxi driver, a delivery driver, or something like that. Yeah.
How did that get to that point?
And his face is that meme. He's.
If you want to watch Vietnam-style flashbacks with John Mackay, John's listening outside now. I think he was there in the studio. I certainly remember Shireen Nanjiani being there when STV went to the kind of robotic camera setup rather than proper human being cameramen, and they had a couple of hairy nights with that where it was all over the shop, and you're trying to concentrate and doing your job.
You must have, because you've done live radio for what, 30 years. Yes. You must have had a few gaffes on here yourself.
Very first show that me and Stuart did together with Robin Grimmond of the Dundee fanzine, A Mind O'Gilly. Hello to Robin if you're tuned in. And they decided in their wisdom, it was the last time they ever used it, to go with the old 7-second delay. You hear about a lot of that in radio.
So you weren't trusted then?
And we weren't. It was very outset of and they thought we'll use this, and it kicked in when it wasn't actually needed. And we kept hearing ourselves back and back
There's
and back in our ears.
Yeah.
Stuart nearly had a stroke live on air. That might have been the start of his downfall all those years ago. But Stuart went off his nut. He really went into a rage after the show. I remember it vividly. It was probably the last crossword that I ever had with Stuart, albeit it was very a one-way street. But Stuart absolutely bollocked me and Robin Grimmond because we were kind of spectating. We were looking at Stuart while he was really struggling with
to get out,
rather than jumping in helping out. That would only have come from experience. Like the other couple of weeks when Paul English had come in without his script. He was in your seat, and he started the show and he realised he'd nothing to say. No, it was easy, as he said. Oh, I just let Willie Miller to my left, i.e. me, just sweep up behind me. Aye, that's fine after 30 years, but I'm sorry, Stuart, that first day we were on together, when it went mental.
It's weird how just hearing your own voice back can throw you off. It's like when you get an
don't do it.
when an escalator's not working and you have to walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
It just feels like it's not normal, it's not natural. And it's weird how hearing your own voice doesn't work. Have you had any other bad ones over the years?
No.
Think so? Right. Get in touch, 80295, email off the
on air
BBC
disasters. Aye, again, live, that's the beauty of it. But John Mackay must have, I can't wait to hear. He could probably done a separate book on that. But we're going to be joined by John Mackay, and apart from all the STV and the news anchorman stuff, big Rangers fan. They will be playing Susie McCabe's team Celtic tomorrow. Rangers, Celtic, Hearts fans primarily this week. Give us all your chat on the football and the news item, the moment in a news studio, the great one that they used to show on, even get back to I think Dennis Norden's day of It'll Be Alright Tonight. The black American newsreader who's reading about the wanted man who every police department in America is after, and they put up the picture behind the newsreader. It's his twin, and it's just very, very funny.
Good, yeah.
So all things like that, get them in. What does Hamilton mean to you? We have to say a very, very happy birthday, happy anniversary, whatever you want to dear old Hamilton Accies. 150 years ago this weekend, in 1874, they played their first ever game. So we're basically asking, what does Hamilton mean to you?
So I think this, because we were talking about this before we were coming up with the show today, and Hamilton will mean a lot more to you than others because you are a Lanarkshire baby.
I was born in Hamilton,
Right.
When Stuart got wind of that, courtesy of a third party, he enjoyed that. For me going on to Motherwell, exactly. So I was born in Beckford Lodge. You liked that as well, me being born in a lodge.
I've heard those rumours.
Yeah, I think Stuart's words were you conceived out the back of one. He was really, really going for it there, but the answer was no. Beckford Lodge will be a few of my old compadres who were born in there many moons ago. So yeah, I'm biasing. For years, all the growing up in Motherwell, socialising, all that quick £2.40 taxi out to Hamilton. It's too broad a subject for me, but the ones that you'll enjoy, you know for a fact that that's where I tried on my first pair of specs. I've told you that story before. That was a illuminating episode, right? Very gingerly putting them on behind the goals at Hamilton. You could sit right up against the wee wall, and because you were nervous about putting specs on, and it was a stigma back then still, you know. My fear of vinegar stemming from Hamilton. You know that one?
I know you don't have vinegar, but I didn't know there was a fear.
Yeah, I think that's what set me off. I can't take vinegar. No, salt and vinegar, no thanks, just salt. I was cornered in a kebab shop after a night at Hamilton Palace of dancing by two young ladies. I'd only recently started doing a bit of telly. I'd been doing this for a while, newspaper, you know.
You had the glasses.
So folk knew my cooking, and I was in a kebab shop, two lassies, being overly cheeky with me.
This is where every love story in Lanarkshire
Overly
starts.
cheeky with me, right? And it was like a precursor. I'm thinking, years from now I'm going to end up signing for St Mirren if I take this any further. But so I'm cornered there in the fast food shop late at night, and they were being just overly cheeky with a drink in them, and I gave a bit of cheek back, as is my
want. What were you getting criticised for? Just being you? Or?
Aye, it'd been in Motherwell probably. They'd have been for Hamilton there. So Motherwell would get a bit of, you know, and that was it. And at the start I was trying to be David Niven, of course, and thinking, ladies, so, you know, shall we retire for a late drink somewhere? But they were just giving me vile abuse.
Did you tell them you knew Rod Stewart at that point?
So no, I didn't know him then. I was just hanging out with Susie Quattro in those days. But when I gave them a wee bit of back, as I was perfectly entitled to do, I was kind of cornered down the back of the kebab shop. They were covering the doorway, and one of the lassies picked up one of those fat, squeezy bottles of vinegar, and it was full, and every last drop she soaked me in. It was like she was like a fireman's hose, and she drowned me in this vinegar to the point I couldn't get a taxi for outside the dancing to take me, and I walked over to Motherwell, the catwalk as they call it, because I was reeking, soaked in vinegar, and I've never had vinegar in my chips ever since then.
That's fair enough, yeah.
You
so if you're listening today, you want to get in touch with Tam about that if you're those two.
Where you that girl? Yeah. Come on, own up. Own up. But anyway, when I saw what she ordered that night on the kebab shop, I think she's still with us.
My Hamilton one was Hamilton away. I'm going to guess this is maybe 2002, 2003 was the first stadium I was ever at where a football chant was directed at me.
Oh!
Have you ever had that?
Yes.
So
yes.
I was walking down, with the away fans go, you sit up high, but if you want to go down to get food or anything like that, you've got to go down to the concourse and walk down there.
Right.
So I was by myself.
Right.
I was maybe 13 years old, big ginger hair, and I got a ginger hair is unacceptable chant directed at me from the fans, and then something that I can't say on the radio, but I was the first time I'd ever had it. And I was like, oh, and I thought my mates would have do you know how you give you honours or whatever, and I went back to the seat and they were just pissing themselves laughing because it hadn't happened
honours,
to them.
well said, honours. A lot of folk get that word wrong. It's honours.
Honours, aye.
It's not handers or it. It's honours.
Handers is a different thing.
It's
Handers is what you thought you were getting in that chip shop.
ERS. That's it. But yeah, I had a couple of, again, good back when probably same era as the vinegar incident. When my big fat face was everywhere. I had a wee Tam Cowan Euro, and I took that as a
sign of endearment.
Term of endearment at Fir Park from away fans. But then the best one with that, and I still applaud the guy to this day, when Airdrie beat us. No, wait a minute, was it when Airdrie beat us or when Llanelli beat us 1-0? I think it was when Llanelli beat us 1-0. We of course won the return leg, but we played it at the Shibury Excelsior, whatever it may be called now. Is it still that?
I honestly,
you're the lower league man.
Yeah, honestly, couldn't tell. It's changed so many things.
Who knows? But I'm guessing it was still the Airdrie Tannoy guy that was being used, and I had just done.
Was your pitch getting relayed or something?
A programme, yeah. I'd know that long for doing the programme's taxi for Cowan, so. 1-0 to Llanelli, and the guy said over the thing me, taxi for Cowan.
Yeah. You can't even be annoyed, can you?
That was great.
No. That's good. So yeah, what does Hamilton mean to you?
Come on, what does Hamilton mean to you?
On their 150th anniversary, so it's the 12th of December 1874. It was a Saturday, so today their game, they're trying to make a big deal about it.
And is there a Hamilton fan out there who even you had it in cine camera and you managed to get it transferred to a Betamax video and then on to a DVD? The Adrian Sprott goal.
I thought you were going to ask about those people soaking in vinegar.
No, Hamilton, I'd take that. CCTV in the shop. Hamilton Accies put up a great, I think it was about 7 minutes as well. Great wee clips from the history of Hamilton, everything they had, and wee clips of goals scored and all that. Wee clips of just headshots, Panini sticker style of players of the past and all that. And a lot of folk in the comments were saying, where's Adrian Sprott's goal? Adrian Sprott, who famously, the 1-0 for Hamilton at Graham Souness's Rangers, Ibrox, Terry Butcher, Chris Woods and all that. It was a famous cup victory, but alas, I'm 99% sure it has not been captured in any forum on camera, and that's it, because the cameras weren't there that day. Folk didn't, of course, have the mobile phone technology. So nobody's seen it.
You think about technology today and everything
out there somewhere.
I watched the Stranraer highlights from midweek against Spartans. Everything is televised.
It's easily done. But so what does Hamilton mean to you? Come on. The Hamilton Accies fans, let's hear from you. What's just a moment that you will take to your grave? And we've got a good last one as well.
Yeah, let's chuck that in quickly before we get our guests in. So in the week that Archie Gray, who started at centre-half, he's played centre-half, right-back, centre-mid, young guy for Spurs this season. Is it his great uncle?
His great uncle
is Eddie Gray.
Is Eddie Gray.
So you came up with the concept, great uncles.
Just great uncles.
An uncle that's great.
Not in the family tree, an uncle that's great. So we want you to put, we've done it in the past in this show. We've paid tribute to brothers, sisters, grannies in particular. We did that for a long time. Uncles were cruelly left out. So we just want, who's your great uncle? Give us a story about your great, like my Uncle Rab. There was a great uncle because he was able to get us in for nothing to the Magnum Centre in Irvine. And that is because my Uncle Rab worked in security at Rolls Royce in East Kilbride. But we worked in security a bit like the great Gordon Kennedy character in Absolutely, when he was a security guy. My Uncle Rab basically thought he was like senior superintendent of the police force because he had the security badge and all that in a uniform. And he would take, when we went down with my cousins and that, down to Magnum Centre, he'd just flash his card at the front desk, and we just breeze right through.
I had an aunt who was the cleaner in Inverurie Jail, and when it was dark, us and his kids, and I was about 7 years old, and all family are deaf, so they didn't know the voices were still happening. So I was screaming the place. So I had the opposite. My uncle, my great uncle, my Uncle Mac, he's my dad's twin, and they're identical. So as a kid, I could never tell who's who. But he was he does a trick. So my uncle's
was your dad deaf from birth?
Yeah, both of them were. Yeah.
So you're saying he's identical?
Identical,
he was
completely identical. Yeah.
Wow.
The only difference is he's got half a thumb. He fell off a roof and he's got half a thumb. So he used to put a fake thumb on and like pretend to people like he'd fallen over and he'd hurt his thumb and stuff like that. When we were down at the beach and all that. So he was just a big joker. But in terms of like uncles, when I was growing up, it's all my mum and dad's pals.
Right.
Were always uncles. Did you have that? Or was it always just, have you got a big family?
No, not necessarily. The big family days have they seem to be dying out.
Yeah.
Generation by generation. I'm fascinated with that though. Sorry, I know I guess Karen, you'll be fascinated as well. So your uncle and your dad, identical.
I think it's twins, both deaf. If you're from Stranraer, you'd probably know them. So they're farmers down there. My uncle was the goalie for the Stranraer reserve team for a bit. Identical big ginger deaf twins that kicked about Stranraer in the 50s, 60s and 70s. So yeah, like that. It'd be my uncle back. And also, see, we were saying uncles, it doesn't need to be a blood uncle. It could be, because I think a lot of people growing up had uncles and aunties that were just family friends that would hang out.
My wee lassie's got her Auntie Laura down the street, but she's not.
She's a hairdresser.
Mum's a great pal. Exactly.
So that's our topics. We'll chuck out just now. Team of the week, Tam, the Bin Man 11.
Yeah, there is talk this morning that Glasgow City Council, there is talk of it could be a 7-week period over the festive period without any refuse collection.
Have you seen that they're also potentially going to be doing the glass bins in weighted level? So they're only going to pick it up once it goes by a certain level. So that'll properly shame who's bevying in the house and not.
Nah, there's no shame after lockdown.
Yeah.
Remember the bins then?
That's true, yeah.
Wow.
Just crying out for it to be done.
Incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah.
All those bottles of olive oil when you were doing cooking and balsamic vinegar and everything.
Sourdough.
Yeah, so we've gone with the Bin Man 11. The Bin Man 11, and the ones we had this morning were the late, great Laurie Cunningham.
Yep.
For the bin Laurie Cunningham. For younger... Laurie Cunningham, he was after, before you as well.
Before my time, but I know.
One of the brilliant West Bromwich... Just Google him and Cyril Regis and watch some amazing football. Stephen Glass.
Yeah.
That covers one of the bins. And sadly, and if it's 7 weeks, Vasily Rats. So we need to get him in there as well. So the Bin Man 11, the week in football, primarily the European stuff and indeed the World Cup stuff. And Rangers, I'm dying to hear for the Rangers fan. Come on, own up. Are there any of you still out there saying, not Clement's got to go, or have you been won over? And we're all the same fans. We're all fickle. Have I got news for you? Tell us about the moment in a TV news studio that you witnessed that you will never forget. We're going to be joined by John Mackay of STV fame. What does Hamilton mean to you on their 150th anniversary? Great uncles. Who's your uncle that you'll just think he was great? Give us a wee story about him. And the Bin Man 11, 80295 in the text. You can email off the ball at bbc.co.uk.
Yes, those are our topics. You're tuned to Off the Ball on BBC Radio Scotland. And now let's welcome our guests in, Susie McCabe and John Mackay.
Run it. Press it. Here's what's happening. Hot off the press. For everybody here, we're gonna do our best to make you holler, make you scream. I heard it on the news, it's an incredible scene. I just got the word. I'm jamming this, connecting everybody I heard to make you party, make you sweat. You're even gonna feel it through your TV set. I said the headlines. Have you heard it? Headlines. Hit it. Special report. It's rocking in the party, paper jamming the sport. It makes your body so wet. A devastating rhythm that you never forget. I just got the news. Got it printed in the paper, everything that you do. You wanna party, rock and roll. That's a hot news.
So yeah, there was only one real song we could play when we're entering in a newsreader, wasn't there, Tom?
I bet you John Mackay will come up with others. It was either that or A Day in the Life by the Beatles. I read the news today. That's a bit depressing. John, if you could pick your own entrance music, what would that have been?
That would have been it.
Would that have been it?
Yeah, I read the news today, so it generally is quite depressing. So yeah, seems appropriate.
I was hoping you'd have plucked one from the Rangers songbook.
Yeah.
Just so we could have said, we can't play it.
If you're just tuned in, so we're joined by Susie McCabe and John Mackay. Susie, I described John Mackay as a Scottish icon earlier. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I feel that like John's been on the telly for the majority of my life. He's like a Scottish Trevor McDonald, basically.
Have you ever met Trevor McDonald?
I never have. No.
Do you know? Do newsreaders not socialise together? Or no.
No. There's a kind of ego aura around us all, so it sort of bounces off.
Amazing.
They don't even get socialising with each other now because of the cutbacks, I dare say. It's just John himself. And that's it. We must Kellyanne Woodland.
There's nothing quite like John Mackay saying there's an ego around newsreaders as he's about to produce his book based on news stories. So.
Well, that's the collective. That's the collective of newsreaders, an ego of newsreaders.
I quite like
John, the title is Me and Other Great Broadcasters. What's that about?
It's just me.
You open up, it's just a signed John Mackay picture, and that's it. That's all it is.
Now, tell us about, because the last time, it's a number of years since you were on, John, but I believe we were able to have a wee plug for the book back then, because this is like the updated version.
It is. So the original book came out 9 years ago, called Notes of a Newsman. It was basically the history of Scotland told through news scripts and transcripts. And I figured after the independence referendum, it's all going to calm down, so that's the end of it. But obviously a lot's happened since then, so we've updated it. It's a new title, Scotland Today and Yesterday, but it's the same concept. It's the scripts that were read out at the time, and it covers Scotland basically from the Thatcher era right up until now.
And see, if you're writing a book about the news, surely you have to have a cut-off point. So when does this run up till? Because news happens every day.
It does happen every day. It actually goes right up to the death of Alex Salmond, so it's really quite contemporary. It's also a very typical presenter's book. You were asking about news presenters. Most of the stuff was written by other people. I'm taking credit for it. Yes. So that's pretty much my role.
Is there a wee bit at the end that only you think is funny?
I think you'll find the audience tell us they love it anyway. Yeah.
Right, no, it looks excellent. And was originally the fact Scotland Today and Yesterday, was that back when Scotland Today had been a nice wee play in words? Because it's not just STV News at 6.
It's STV News at 6, but a lot of people still call it Scotland.
I know,
that is exactly well observed. It's exactly that. It says what the title says what it is. It's Scotland Today and Yesterday, how we got here.
And a perfect stocking filler.
For so many people, even kids could scribble on it. So anybody in the family,
Right. Now tell us, before we go to Susie, and we'll dip our toe into the cup final tomorrow, because we've got John and Susie on. John, just give us an idea, because the amount of years you have been broadcasting the news, what are the biggies that you have covered?
The big stories are the big mistakes.
When you've not been in the studio.
We'll get to the mistakes later, the big stories.
Because you did a bit of on the ground stuff when certainly the Rangers story back 2012, you were in the thick of that.
Yeah.
What were the other real biggies that you've done?
The real biggies, some of them, when I started, you had the Lockerbie bombing, you had the Piper Alpha, big disasters like that. The one that probably struck me most was Dunblane. That's a tragedy that still people talk about. But then, of course, you've got the independence referendum, which for Scots was such a huge story. In the midst of all of that, an awful lot of sports stories, in particular football stories. Scottish teams getting to European finals, Scottish teams getting to World Cups. No, I'm kidding you on there.
Only once. World Cup potentially.
98. We do get 98 in, but so there's a lot of sport in there as well.
And how does it work? Because like Tam, myself, Susie, we've all done things where you'll get a briefing if what happens if a member of the royal family is going to pass away. Did you do the Queen's death? Did you have that?
Well, we did. It was more the fact that the Queen died in Scotland. We did more the kind of aftermath of it, because, as you say, there's such a protocol in place for when a monarch.
So does that go straight to ITV? Is that the rules?
That goes pretty much straight to ITV. Yeah, or they broadcast for a certain period of time. Because the Queen died in Scotland, and by all accounts deliberately chose to die in Scotland, then we had all the dramatic things that were happening in Edinburgh, at the passage of taking her remains down from Balmoral to Edinburgh and then lying in state in Edinburgh, all of that kind of stuff. So we covered that in detail because that was very much our story.
And did you get told what colour of tie to wear that day?
You just wear black. It's pretty safe to do.
No, we can't. When we've got two veterans of the stand-up comedy circuit saying dying in Scotland. It was not just the Queen that's done that. Is there one that still haunts you, Susie?
Aye, there was a Christmas corporate maybe about 6 years ago. Of course it was a Christmas corporate in it, because nothing will ruin a gig quite like alcohol and cocaine. And
at 12 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon.
12 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, and then there was actually a fight in the middle of my set. There was a fight at the one table. At the one table, there was a fight in the middle of my set at the one table, and it was two brothers that owned a business, hadn't been getting on apparently, and they just went for it. Bottles, glasses, the lot. And I'm like that. Knock, knock. I'm like that. Somebody gave me a number and I'll pretend I'm one of the ladies giving a boxing ring.
Dear me, right.
Honestly.
But Ray, yourself, what's one? There must be one that you still recall.
The Scottish one's nothing pales compared to my third ever gig was in Manchester the night after the Rangers fans trashed it, and I will never do a worse gig because the minute I started speaking they thought I was down for that, and it was just like you could still smoke indoors then. And I just remember someone like picking up an ashtray. I was like, they're about to tan that at me. Like, I would take that if it means I can get out. Because Susie, you'll have seen, or I don't know if have you ever done one of the gigs where someone pretends to faint on stage?
Oh yes.
I've always heard of these. I've never done one of these.
What a laugh that is. There's nothing quite like, or I've actually seen quite a well-known female comedian stop a gig for no other apparent reason than they were absolutely dying a death on a stage, but they stopped the gig because they said that they felt threatened, and I was like, we all felt threatened. We all thought they were going to slip
the
in
godfather of that, of course, John, you'll remember that. Who was the legendary name, showbiz name, who back in the 60s feigned fainting on a Glasgow stage.
Desert Connor, wasn't it?
Desert Connor. Yeah. Just thought, can't I? I'm not can't have this at all. Let's go for the sympathy vote. Yeah. It was in the Glasgow Empire, famously.
Yeah, there's a comedian who now lives in America who did it at the Glasgow Stand twice within 6 months, and the first time they really helped him, the second time like, he's done it before, man, we're not helping him. I'll text you who it is later.
So John,
text me the now. I'm sitting right across from you.
Right, John, the Nightmares, where you part and parcel at the studio that time, I recall, it must be 20 years ago now. I remember Shireen getting caught in it when it was robotic cameras.
We'd introduced a whole new technology, and as soon as we went on air we realised this wasn't going to work, and ironically it was St Andrew's Day, so we're sitting there with a lucky white heather on. As soon as we went on air we realised we're not going to last, and we came off air after about 10 minutes. But the real unfortunate thing about that was to cover the time. STV had this beautiful piece of footage. It was called The Edge of the Land. It was a helicopter ride around the coast of Scotland, and they put that in to fill the space. So we came down from the studio all anxious about the fact that we haven't delivered the news that night, the only time it's ever happened in my time, and the phones were just buzzing, and we answered the phones with some trepidation, only to hear people say, "What was that programme? That was brilliant." So don't like to repeat that too much. It may give people ideas, but yeah, so that was an awful night. Shireen will tell you even.
Have you ever had a classic slip of the tongue?
This book covers about. I've been a journalist for nearly 40 years. The one thing I'm going to be remembered for is when I mistakenly pronounced website wrongly.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So that is quoted back to me ad nauseum. That's it. That's
do you remember our ex of the BBC, Rona McLeod? Remember her famous one?
Oh, what was that?
No, what did she do?
Well, she was meant to be saying the name of the footballer of that era, Paddy Flannery, but she did a wee spoonerism.
Oh, wow.
And it was a stota.
That's a good question. Is there a name that comes up that you always have trepidation over?
Fortunately, I haven't had to say it till now, I don't think. So nobody wants to say Jeremy Hunt.
Yes, yeah.
I've
seen that happen a few times.
That's been like breakfast TV, breakfast radio, or that's always
And
fun.
there's talk that it's almost meant to be a private members club. It's meant to be laughing behind closed doors. Folk allegedly
accidentally will say it too.
Accidentally on purpose. Aye,
okay.
Which is a bit poor, you know what I mean?
And tune into our Hogmanay now.
Right, so listen, we'll go through the talking points in the company of John Mackay and Susan McCabe. First up, John, are you a fickle Rangers fan? I mean, it's been over the past 3 weeks. What's happened? It's bonkers.
It's all change, and all of a sudden. But see, that's the thing about football. Any football team, it's the hope that kills, and all of a sudden you think, oh, things are beginning to change. Things are picking up. Iggyman's maybe showing us what we needed. But then you get to do it again, and the hope dies. But it's football's cyclical, as you well know. So it's not Rangers' moment at this point in time. It has been in the past. The question is, when will the tide turn again? So fickle. No, who's a fickle football fan generally? You just.
So do you get to that game now tomorrow with newfound confidence?
No.
Hope. Oh, you don't?
Hope. Well, no, I hope. Yeah, exactly that. Right. Yeah, it's hope. You think, well, it might not be the absolute doing that we might have anticipated.
Right, wow.
But that said, Celtic, they're in such good form, and also they've had 2 days extra preparation. So I think.
Here we go.
And you've got all that money.
Honestly, you had 10 years of financial doping, right? But suddenly we get 2 days of extra prep, and suddenly, it's just not our time now.
Have you changed your tune and outlook at Susie because of the Rangers' performance of the night?
No.
Before we get to that, were you disappointed with Celtic's performance on Tuesday night, because it felt like that was a game they maybe could have gone and won?
Yeah, totally missed opportunity, and I felt that it was just a very lacklustre performance from us. It was just very bitsy. There was no pace, there was no urgency. It wasn't that kind of. But I'd been at the game the previous weekend against Hibs at home, and again, well, it was a bit more of a different situation where you were up against the kind of low block, right? And that's fine, you expect that. But yeah, we just weren't quite on it, and we weren't quite zippy. Do I think Rangers could score tomorrow? Yeah. Do I think if we come out, if we play 90%, we'll win the game? Right. If Rangers are full pelt 100%, and even if we're 10% off it, I still think we could sneak
it. Gives your reaction to that. Susan McCabe, fervent, die-hard Celtic fan, goes to the games.
Don't be giving me the reaction.
90%. Susie says if Celtic play to 90% of their capability, trophy's going to Celtic Park.
Is Alistair Johnson fit? Do you know?
Don't know yet. I don't know. I don't know.
There's little things like that, and
John Suter.
Yeah, John Suter's
What's
huge.
the latest there, John?
John Suter, I don't think he's going to make it. It was quite apparent on Thursday night when he went down that he wasn't going to.
And again, you talk about transformation. You know, so there was a lot of question marks, after his name from the Rangers fans not too long ago, and then suddenly he's blossomed.
He's been phenomenal since he didn't get picked for the Euros. He's been so good since then. But I think Rangers Celtic games, we'll chat about other games as well. But
I wouldn't bet on it now.
What?
I found that so eye-opening the other night. Before the Rangers Spurs game the other night, and I enjoy a wee tickle on the games. I'm going to, as I've already told one of my pals, I'll have a sporting, maybe a 10 or 20 quid on a high-scoring draw. And then we'll see what happens next. That's only 90 minutes.
There was a cup final, was it 3-4 years ago when Celtic won? Was it Chris Julian scored a header? They won 1-0 and Rangers dominated the game. But the cup finals can happen.
The big thing that could happen is, my hope is that maybe there's a lot of fog tomorrow. Games cancelled, and then it's replayed on a Thursday.
All the flares get set off. Nobody can see the pitch for the first 10 minutes. I think that I know what you're saying, Tam, right, about Rangers against Spurs, but I go, Spurs look like they've down tools for Ange. Ibrox was absolutely rocking, as it should be. And I think that's a Spurs team on the way down.
They had one change from the team that beat Man City.
I think you've been a bit harsh. I think as well, because if Spurs had, I'll be hands up, I bet Spurs half time and full time 94 your money. Simple reason was I had memories of Liverpool, as we say, 7 goals. That league in which Spurs operate, the money, it always boils down to that in this day and age. And I thought, no surprise here, the Spurs turned up at Ibrox and won 4 or 5 now. For me, it wouldn't have shocked you.
For me, the game tomorrow, as it always comes down to these games, it's James Tavernier against Maeda. And Maeda is about 6-0 up in those games. And it depends, because Sterling's not going to play, is he?
Maeda's been off form though.
But he dominates.
He just needs to run it, Tav, to be fair. I like pace.
Does anybody know a news hound like John? Of course we'll know, so we'll give Susie first go. Why 3:30 and not 3 p.m?
Is it clashing with one of the games? Is it just
Ray reckons it could be rugby.
I think it could be because Premier Sports have got the European, whatever the rugby cup is called. It used to be Heineken Cup, whatever that is now. They've got all the games, so that's
But
all.
hang on, we're told this is the biggest derby match in the world. So
Yeah,
how
but
can it possibly
Sky have
be moved for other games?
Palace against Brighton at 2 and Man City and Man United at 4:30. So it's not to clash with English games. It doesn't affect them because no matter what, a 3, half 2 would be in the middle of them. So I think it's to do with Premier Sports who have the game.
And John, the other edge that the game's got tomorrow, I believe, if I think both Celtic Rangers are tied on.
I didn't know this.
Is it something like 18? No, I can't remember that.
But so Celtic could nudge ahead.
See this. I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to be an out-and-out Celtic fan here, right? See from the kind of smug perspective and slagging your pals, right? But see the idea of Celtic having the world's most successful football club about their stadium. That's just nonsense, right? Unless you're Real Madrid. So see the whole kind of, you win the cup, you go on, you'll have a wee laugh with your mates. That's it. I really hope that Celtic as a club don't buy in to that.
There's a tweet ready, isn't there? There's a tweet ready.
That absolute nonsense.
It's such a valid point. You can't be the world's most successful club when Real Madrid have won, 15, 16 Champions League?
And that's another thing. If Rangers are the most successful club, John, the banner, make Rangers great again. What was it? Was there any need for that? I thought you were great. You were the best in the world.
But what great people do is allow other people their time. So that's...
I can't believe that you took a slogan from Donald Trump.
I can't defend that other than the majority of people in America thought so
that
as
was
well.
actually incredible. When Susie said that, I saw you looking for the auto cue. What was happening there?
I was expecting to see that in front of me. All I'm seeing is important notice.
Take back control. That would be the next one.
As a wee tribute, John, why don't you soil yourself live on the show? Do you think there's any truth in that? There was that. I know the wild stuff about Donald Trump, but when he was at that that conference, he was sitting in his Todd.
Nice pun.
Aye, sitting in his Todd, and everybody's looking about, and he was even including a couple of them that looked as if they were. This
story came out about Biden about 3 or 4 years ago.
Aye.
So I think it's just an American trope that comes out.
They wear diapers and
don't smell very pleasant and all that.
I mean, I don't disagree with that. I guess that bit, but yeah. And then, Susie, because we're chatting about is Hamilton 150 years today, the question we're asking the listeners is, what does Hamilton mean to them?
I'm dying to eye. What does Hamilton mean to you?
Hamilton means to me, as somebody who went to school in Coatbridge, brought up in the East End of Glasgow, right? Hamilton means to me, none of that's relevant. It means I'm nearly home. It means I've came up the M6, I've came up the A74, the M74. I see Wishy Flats.
Yeah,
I see the high flats.
I see the high flats, and then I see the lights. I see the sign for Hamilton Services, and I'm like, I can drink tap water again. Come on.
That's a good shout. That's when you do know after a long drive from down south, wherever you've been, Blackpool, anywhere, you know
that you're back into civilization.
John, where were you born and bred, John?
I was born in Hillington in Glasgow.
Right.
So, but I've got some family who live out Lanarkshire way. But for me, actually, I used to read the results on BBC Radio Scotland, and always, even from being a kid, I always remember Hamilton Academical. That name just sticks in your mind. So when you're reading out the results, there was always a wee kind of something Hamilton Academical. That's so Scottish. It was. So that's why I always think of Hamilton. This Hamilton Academical, and I don't even know the root of the name. I'm sure you may do, but it just stood out for me that this was so quintessentially Scottish.
I thought it was connected to the kind of Hamilton College thing, because they're quite close to each other.
That's what I would have guessed.
I'd say I've got a few pals in Hamilton, and they're not really academic. So I don't, including one who worked with a removal firm. This was a great wee story, and he told it against himself, to be fair. They were doing a removal at one point at a house, and the guy that I know, suddenly one of the things he was going to shift, it was a very ornate kind of wooden sundial kind of thing, you know. And he'd no idea what this was, and he said to the guy, what is this? And he said, well, he said, a sundial. He says, use the sun, and then with the shadows and that, it tells you the time. And he says, what will they think of next? But anyhow.
The professor that's won the Nobel Prize, is he not from Hamilton? No.
No. Bellshill. New Stevenson. Stroke Bellshill. He was at school.
I knew it was Lanarkshire, but
Bellshill, but originally that's Professor Sir David McMillan.
Yes.
Have you met him yet, John?
No, I've not met him either.
No, I don't think so.
Oh,
no.
brilliant. Nobel Prize for chemistry, and gave all his winnings to a scheme that gets kids from deprived areas in Scotland into university.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Good North Lanarkshire,
Good,
man.
Hey, listen, I'm on the Shire.
So we've got the week in football. We've done a lot of that stuff. That looked like a classic story that you'd have delayed from sport to the end of the show, John. The wee Hearts mascot. Did you see it? It's a lovely story.
I didn't see that.
And the wee guy was like, they clearly
Morton
okayed
Shanklin
it.
was with it. Yeah, right.
So they'd okayed it with the guys down, the quiet, but then it was the Copenhagen official come up to the wee boy and he, would you like to be a mascot? We're looking for... The wee guy was going like a battery. It was brilliant. What was the wee boy's name? We need to name check him as we approach 1 o'clock. So if I get news for you, Susie, have you got a favourite moment that you've watched while sitting watching the news?
Do you know what I would say? I quite like my history and all that. So, like, all the stuff that John's kind of previously mentioned, all that stuff. But I remember watching the story of Boaty McBoatface and just thinking, nothing quite sums up this nation more than being given a job to do and we're like, let's just rip it.
Yeah.
And I loved the whole Boaty McBoatface, and I loved how everyone else in the United Kingdom was appalled at us saying Boaty, like them trying to report that in the BBC News as if it was like, and here they are, these Scots not taking a boat seriously.
That goes viral with our gritters quite a lot, doesn't it?
The gritters are
They're
great
all
as well.
constantly coming
And
through.
talking to memorable names, John, remind me, you've got some crackers in our STV reporters.
Yeah.
Great, particularly surnames. Who are the ones that I'm thinking of?
Well, I think they're all great surnames.
You've got Charteris.
Ronnie Charters.
Charters, sorry, right. You've got Ronnie Charters.
Yes,
You've got...
rising star in the sporting world.
Who's the kind of Frenchy sounding...
Paris Gutierrez.
Oh,
who's
superb.
Greek Canadian.
And there's a fishy one, a fisher, a long... Who's that one I'm thinking of?
Fisher.
That fishy. Oh, it's another reporter, but it's a great surname that I've never heard before.
I off the top of my head, I can't think of that. I mean, I can't not mention the great Rahman Bardwaj.
Oh, Rahman.
Yeah.
That was one of the great... What was the tournament he was at, or what was the event he was at? It was you went live to him, and it was one of those really long pauses, and it was the man from Del Monte.
That's
with
right.
the hat on. What was that event?
I'm sure that was Rangers in Seville in 2022. It was that
Did he have
hot.
like a fez on or something? Like that,
He was so hot.
Had he taken a San Miguel during the afternoon?
Do you know he
or a
hadn't?
toilet
he
water.
hadn't.
He hadn't. No, I think he was really badly affected by the heat. A couple of the team were. I mean, it was so warm.
You know you've got good mates working for you when you're going, no, that was heat stroke. That was heat stroke. They're covering massively.
You ever done a show with a drink in you?
I never have, but
No.
again...
Just asking.
Well, no, I've never done it on air, but what I did do was, again, years ago when I was working here at BBC Radio Scotland, I came in straight from a stag do and slept through the bulletins I was supposed to be giving to a newsreader to get
wow.
out. So that was a one-off, though. That wouldn't happen.
Another one, our producer reminded me, it was a big story at the time, but Sally Magnuson tried to do a bulletin in here when there was basically a party going on, like right behind her, and it was bedlam, and Sally's trying to read the stuff out.
There's nothing quite like talking about drinking at your work and Kenny McIntyre walks in, is it?
Drive into it.
Kenny, how are we?
Oh, good. Nice to see John. Haven't
How's
seen
you,
John
Kenny?
for a long time.
Do you know each other?
Very well.
Do you know what? Used to play football with John 25, 30 years ago. I play football about 3 times a week, believe it or not. And more often than not, against John's team.
Yeah, probably.
What are we talking? 5, 7s, 11s?
5, 7s, 11s. And actually, John, I played for many 11-a-side teams, and I played for your 11-a-side team a few times. Were you BK Scotia? Was
That's
that your
right.
team?
Yeah. I play in the Glasgow District Saturday morning league.
And you'll appreciate this one because I know you still play your amateur Ray. So every team, as you know, has got the nutter.
Yeah.
Who turns out when it gets it not to be that hard. But every team's also got a guy, the strong,
The quiet psycho.
see his brother. Mac. Oh my God.
Big Angus.
The most intimidating guy I've ever seen in a football field.
Did he work at the MOD?
He did, how'd you know?
Right. So, no, he was pals, work colleague with one of my best mates, Jim.
Oh, right.
They worked together.
Chick Young played in that league as well, by the way.
Did he? He was a hardy boy in the picture,
Well,
brother,
Chick,
wasn't
was
he?
it Chick that was the hardy guy, or was it the MSP? And it became a big news
The
story.
papers.
I remember what Mason. Somebody, is it John Mason?
John Mason.
John Mason's
is it?
that.
No, it wasn't him.
MSP.
No way is John Mason playing football.
It wasn't him.
Not a
Wait,
chance.
Well, Chick will be tuned in.
Yeah.
But I think it was, but it was. But I'm never.
Is it
I
John
can't
Major?
remember who the maniac was.
John Major? No, not him. No.
It was. I thought it was now former MSP John Mason.
Oh, come on! It was a media team against. Was it a Lesser Hampden? A media
But
team
who went
against.
in on whom with the studs up?
I've
Someone
heard
did a
they're
job in
very
Chick.
tasty, those games.
Someone did a job in Chick, I think. I think that's what happened in that game. It got a bit tasty.
I really like the idea of it being like BBC against the STV, 5-a-sides. Just
That'd be good,
people
wouldn't it?
turning up to read out the news. John turning up with a black eye and a broken nose on Monday.
John was a good player.
Kenny
John was
sitting
very
with two
good.
broken arms going, it's all right, I can still talk.
What I've really enjoyed about this interaction so far is that he remembers you and you clearly don't remember
No,
playing against him.
no, sorry, no, I didn't want to interrupt. No, Kenny was a good, solid player. He was, and
Centre-half, Kenny?
Yeah, and more than that, I played with his dad.
Yes.
Who
That's right.
was, say again.
Wow. I was shocked.
That does go back a long way.
His father was a great player.
And we used to bring in a ringer occasionally, a guy who
That was you?
currently playing
Oh,
at
sorry, I
Rangers.
thought you meant at work.
No.
He's currently
He
playing.
was a Rangers player at the time.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think Souness was probably the manager.
Yeah.
And we used to, when we were struggling to beat John's team, we brought in Ian McCall.
You did?
Occasionally.
One game we played against Ian McCall's team, we were winning. He had done nothing. We were winning 2-0 at half time. Big Angus marked him out the game. Ian McCall at half time obviously decided, right, I'm going to start playing, and gubbed us 5-2. That
These
was
guys
it.
could do that.
Yeah.
I remember playing against Charlie Nicholas in a 5-a-side game out in East Kilbride one night, and this was a few years after he'd finished. But we can slaughter these guys. Sometimes you see them in the park, you're rubbish. But see when you actually play against them, it's just different.
I used to play in a fives game where a comedian would bring along his famous friends, and it was professional footballers. And like you said, the first half an hour they wouldn't try. And I remember Stephen Fletcher at one point scored an overhead kick in a fives pitch. It was just like, oh, he's actually very good. Okay, yeah, that's what's happened. It was just, they would try hood up because they didn't want to be recognised, hats on. And it was, it's fascinating to see. Their first touch takes them to goal every time.
That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the difference compared to us, which take 4 touches to get out.
Right, Kenny, pressure's on you. Sports Sound.
Sports Sound, we have open all mics today. 3 games we're covering in the top flight, 3 in the Championship. I think perhaps the most interesting one would be Easter Road. David Gray still in a bit, but they were very good last week. At
I think
Celtic.
Motherwell Dundee United.
4-3-5.
Fourth,
I'd go
three,
4-3-5.
fifth. That'll be the commentary game, won't it?
Falkirk here?
No commentary today.
No commentary today.
Yeah, Ayr United against Falkirk. Chick's down there. The Championship was fantastic. We've spoken a lot about Falkirk this season. Raved about them. The amount of chance. That's the only thing that was criticised, I think, by the manager, John McGlynn. The amount of chances they're creating, but not tucking them away. But they're a superb footballing side. Down at Ayr United tonight, and perhaps a wee bit of pressure applied last night by Livingston Ray. I mean, your team were poor last night, weren't they?
Yeah, really poor. Brian Graham missed a couple of chances, but apart from that, we didn't really create anything. And to be honest, 2-0 could have been 3. Lee Ashcroft gets one off the line at the end.
Yeah.
It was just, it looked like a performance from us that we had at the start of the season, and then we'd gone, I was saying to Tam earlier, we were 8 unbeaten. When
Yeah.
we came to that game last night with a form team, and we just didn't show up. It's so frustrating.
See,
because-
speaking of teams runs that they're on, Airdrie, 7 straight defeats, 6 without a goal.
I feel
mean,
like
it's
every
incredible.
week when you come in, you're saying about Airdrie, do you think Rhys McKay, well, you thought he was a goner 2 or 3 weeks ago, did you not?
But it's not really been in the fan section at 5:30. We've got an Airdrie fan on. She's great. She was on last season. Times were good. They're playing great football. He was getting linked with lots of other jobs. I think they would happy to see him go. Yeah, St Johnstone, I think, at one point. But I've not actually heard too much conversation about him potentially being under serious pressure. I know they have got a major injury issue. I know they lost a lot of players in the summer.
Lost his assistant manager as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know, but they're adrift at the bottom of the table.
Yeah, were they 5 points this season, I think they are?
Yeah, they're right at the bottom. They've got Morton, I think, just above them. Not just above them, but the next team to try and cling on to. So, Championship games today, no commentary. It's all open, all mics. And what I'm going to put into our pundits, maybe you guys could answer this as well.
No commentary.
No commentary today. It won't
It's
surprise you.
Glasgow-centric hyphenated. I'm taking notes here.
Listen, I'm very honest every week.
Is this Sonny Govan radio?
Just look at one of the complaint emails about our show and just copy and paste it.
You
Don't
ask
worry.
me every week what the commentary game is, and And as you say, if Rangers and Celtic are playing, that's the commentary. I always tell you the game I would choose to
any
go to.
commentary tomorrow? Good, it's back. Just a black today.
Here to change the subject.
You slack Cardiff STV blank Scotland for the England Women's International prime time on a Wednesday.
I've far too much respect for him. Not at all.
John, does that scunner you? Oh, nobody at STV's listening. No, not. Let's, everybody keeps saying, how about STV? No, look, they show England all the time.
I'm proud of everything STV does.
There's somebody protecting our pension.
Here's what I put to the pundits today, right? That goal by Che Adams last night.
Yes.
So, I'll put this to the pundits, I'll put it to the callers we've gone between 5:30 and 7.
So if you've not seen this, Che Adams scored from just inside the opposition half last night for Torino.
Tremendous. So the best goal you've seen in the flesh.
Seen in the flesh. Lucas Jutkovic for Motherwell against Hibs.
The volley.
And I was also first time I'd ever paid for a deer. I paid for a corporate package. It's the only way you could get to it. The Zinedine Zidane volley
against Leverkusen.
Me and my mate Stuart went, and
How much
I saw that live.
How much was that?
Oh, it was into at least a couple of hundred, son.
Is that all?
To go to a football match?
It's not bad.
I don't know what you felt about that, Tom, but because I saw that, that's the best goal I've ever seen. But the strange thing is that normally when somebody scores a goal, you hear, it's an exhalation, a big exhalation from the crowd. When Zidane scored that, it was an inhalation, like a gasp.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Couldn't believe it. It was incredible.
And just for clarity, if there's a great goal at Fir Park today, listeners won't actually hear that.
They'll hear it on all mics.
Yeah. I think for me,
listen, you know every week I will say to you the game I choose. And it's very often not
Listen,
a game involving Celtic Rangers.
sometimes the game he chooses Rangers are playing at home, and other times they're playing away. So it's different.
What a game it was on Thursday night, by the way.
The very essence of this show would be gone forever if we didn't mention things like that on off the
No,
ball.
you're absolutely right.
Thank you.
Hey, I'll change the subject again. Were you at the Celtic game last Saturday?
I was.
That Kyogo goal. That was
nice.
a thing of beauty. See if you're a youngster watching football.
I was,
Everton, didn't it?
I was.
I would even say Celtic got a better one. Was it just the one at St Johnstone? From back to
the
front.
team
Yes.
Aye,
Yes,
remember that one?
Aye,
It's
aye.
not-
Oh, that's the one Dembele scored, and it was 26 passes, and it came from back to front at McDermott Park.
Aye.
Oh, you talking about this season? No.
No.
There was one in the one that thumped them the Saturday evening game. There was a
scored
great
6
team
or
move.
something like that.
A great team move in that one as well.
I would say that probably there's 2 goals that I could say. I would say Sutton against Juventus.
Oh,
Can
aye,
I guess the
I'm
other one?
deep,
Can I guess the other one?
Help yourself.
Nakamura against Man United?
Larson against
Larson
Rangers.
against
I did not remember that one, John.
Listen, I was right behind the goals when he scored that goal, and it was such a kind of that was a kind of moment, I think, for Celtic fans that the power shifted. That if you look back in hindsight and you go, that was the kind that ended that dominance, that first game against Rangers at Celtic Park under O'Neill, and for Celtic to score 6 goals. But that goal, I was right behind it, and when he kind of nutmegs the player and the way he actually scoops the ball over.
all right.
What's so funny is when you're all talking, you're saying Zidane,
Larson.
mine's is maybe Alex Burns for
Great wee player, wee toasty.
Yeah, we toasty. It's a hat trick he scores against Kelly, and I don't know if it's the second or third one, but it's a cock up from them at the back, and he's on the right hand touchline and he curls it over the keeper, and I'm pretty sure it was Gordon Marston goal. And generally, I think the goal I've celebrated the most in all the time I've been to football. There's 2. We scored an equaliser in the second last minute in the cup final that we lost. Doolan scored it, but also Steven Scotland scored against Germany this year to make it 4-1 or 5-1 at the point. I can't remember.
When Rodri scored for Scotland against Germany.
No, Rudiger.
Rudiger,
Yeah.
sorry, yeah.
Because all the German fans had been started supporting Scotland with us because we were that bad, and then it was like a party atmosphere. Everyone went, because again we'd paid £200 for a ticket.
Yeah.
We'd been on the beer since about 10 a.m. Do you remember I phoned in?
Oh, sure you did.
From the square in Munich, and you were asking me a question. I was like, I don't know. I've been out all day. It's been great.
Right, where we go? So, Kenny.
Yeah, no mics today. It's going to be great. Yeah.
I might do an Instagram live and do the commentary from Fir Park on that.
I don't do Instagram, but
I've never done an
you on
Instagram
Instagram, John?
live. Have you done one of them, Susie?
I've never done one.
No, neither have I.
No.
Tam, if you do it today, I'm going to report you for copyright reasons and get you deleted. That's my plan. If you film it, yeah, good luck.
I have to say, someone sent me an Instagram post of yours, I presume from last night. I'm not on Instagram, and it actually reminded me when with the music, and a certain gentleman picked a fantastic sports broadcaster picked the music for us, and you messaged me that night 'cause he was talking about one of his choices was a Rangers convention with Coisty, Walter, Durante, and this was the Clyde fan Dougie Donnelly. You did a nice with Instagram, was it last night?
No, it was Richard Goff had put up a wee picture of him and some Rangers legend, him, Ali McCoy, Steen Duran, Archie Knox, out for a nice wee Italian meal. And there at the bottom of the table, at the bottom of the picture, was the bold Dougie Donnelly. So I just mentioned, wasn't it nice of Dougie to come out for the Clyde FC supporters table, who so happened to be dining in the same restaurant that night, and he came out to say hello to the Rangers boys. I think that was a nice touch.
Very nice. The music tonight, I think it's Scott Allen we're going with tonight. Some good choices. Marty Pella picked him last week.
I'd imagine Scott Allen is going to pick Las Vegas.
No, actually, quite surprising choices. One's quite a modern dance song, I think, but actually two older tunes. One that his dad used to play when he used to drive him to training at Dundee United. So it's a couple of good choices from him. Some fans on, including an Airdrie fan on. What will they do today? Will they break this dreadful run they're on? And
Have you had John's music yet?
No, that'd be good.
Why don't you grab a mic at the end of the show, John? You dashing away at 2 o'clock?
No.
Have a wee think between now and 2. You're
Three songs that are special. If they can be football related, one that reminds you of a game. Or
think about the song that you would play in the dressing room when you beat Kenny's team.
Very rarely.
Right, Kenny, you going to the game tomorrow?
No. Tuned in at home. Looking forward to it.
Cut out prediction. We'll get a prediction from these guys before they go. So let's
Are you available for a Don Revy?
I don't, Ravy.
I don't really drink that much.
Right.
See, the moment you say that, everyone thinks he's got a problem.
Something happened. Kenny, prediction for the game?
2-1.
2.
Rangers.
Oh, there you go. Thank you, Kenny. So, Sports Sound on
Look at
FM2.
the smile on John's face. Look at that.
Susie looks livid.
I don't even live it. I'm just like, aye, very good.
Right, good. Cheers, Kenny.
Cheers, Kenny. See you later, mate.
Thanks for at least being on today. You know, you might just have thought, no bother. So well done. Well done. Congratulations. Right, you know everything that we're talking about in the company of John Mackay and Susie McCabe. The only thing we hadn't asked you about, and then I'm going to go to the texts and emails. A great uncle in the week that Archie Gray has, by the family, 3 great uncles. Eddie Gray, who 50 years earlier had played for Leeds against Celtic. So who's just an uncle that you've got, Susie, was or is great?
I used to have an uncle who, so this was on my grandfather's side. Now, my grandfather passed away when I was only like 4, but he used to live with his sister, and he lived with her family, and he was just the nicest guy, but he had this big piano in his room, and he would say, "Come on in and I'll show you